listening to Tiger Talk Flash Report.
Shout out to the fan. Appreciate y'all being this episode of Tough Tiger Talk. I'm Big Q, representing the Tough Tiger Talk Nation. We up in this thing. LSU loses the bowl game, the Kinder's Texas Bowl against the Houston Cougars, 38-35. It became a shootout toward the back end. But LSU had an opportunity several times over to win this game, despite a lot of defensive personnel missing. The team still wasn't able to capitalize. They weren't able to stop the Cougars. The Cougars basically went up and down the field on LSU's defense. Connor Weigman was just had one of his best games of the season. He had 4 touchdowns on 27 to 36 passing, 236 yards, responsible for 5 touchdowns against LSU, 4 passing, 1 rushing. And there was no answer there. Now, of course, we know there were several players defensively that wasn't available to LSU. And but all of the time LSU had to prepare for Houston. I thought this would be a lot better game in terms of what they needed to do to secure the final win of the season. We know Frank Wilson, who's the interim coach, is done here. He'll be headed to Ole Miss to be their running backs coach. And I think the only reason why we've seen the offensive explosion from LSU was because this was the final game and they felt more inclined to kind of let it go. And Michael Van Buren had a respectable affair, but at the same time, this was just a situation where LSU's defense was just not there. It was not a good effort at all. Allowing as many touchdowns as they did, allowing them to be ran on as many times. They had no sacks in the game at all. It was just an incredible game to watch insofar as you say, okay, LSU punched them in the face, starting the game off with the special teams touchdown, and ultimately come back in the game and not finish the correct way, allow the momentum to slip, can't stop Houston marching the ball, can't cover to save your life. And like I said, some guys were missing in this game, obviously, because they taken themselves out in preparation of the NFL draft. And it's just one of the situations where you wanted LSU to finish on a high note, but instead they didn't. But it was a bitter, sweet and sour moment because you knew you wanted to as an LSU supporter, you always want to win. That's the bottom line. You always want to win these games. You always want to take advantage and win and handle the business the right way. And then, of course, we've seen during the game, the interview from Lane Kiffin, him talking about what he wanted to do here, Blake Baker doing what he needs to do. And of course, LSU will have to fill in the blanks, so to speak. They're going to have to bring in guys and get this transfer portal hard. We've seen what they did with the recruiting for this year's class when he arrived, Lane Kiffin arrived. But man, listen, they're going to have their work cut out for him in this to start this whole situation off. But he has a bunch of resources for the NIL. He'll be able to land a good portal quarterback, and we can get this stuff flipped on the right side, man. But this closes a ugly chapter in the Brian Kelly era, where a lot of what was going on with the Tigers in the future was happening while they were playing football, but it's officially over. We officially are in terms of the offseason for LSU. There's no more football. They finished the season 7-6, which is totally a letdown in my opinion, based on what we have. But in the end, we know what we need to do going forward. And speaking of going forward, y'all hit that like button as we get going on in this thing. Let's punch down on some of these stats right away, and you can see what I'm talking about. The Houston Cougars, 32 first downs versus LSU 17. Just was ridiculous. LSU 7-12 on third down, 7-15 was Houston. You can see Houston was even 2-3 on fourth down as well. They got where they want when they wanted. There were a few stops by LSU defensive ending. You can see the total yards, 437 to 344. The passing attack, 267 by LSU versus 236, which is 10.3 yards per pass for Van Buren. He did really well in that respect, but they couldn't stop anything. They couldn't stop the running attack. They couldn't stop Weigman, who was running all over them. They couldn't stop Connors, who was another player that were handling up on them. So like I said, LSU was just in a position where even with Weigman and Connors had that run. He had 126 yards rushing and it's just really was not a good look, right? We seen them like they put up 201 yards on this flunky defense. We can only carry we only had 76 yards worth of rushing on 24 attempts. They got what they wanted. It was too penalized. There was at least several drives that were that were moved along for Houston by LSU stupid defense on penalties. 9 penalties for almost 100 yards was just disrespectful. We deserved a better outing with all the time they had to prepare for this team. 4 penalties by Houston for 29 yards. If you see the turnovers right there, the time of possession, these people almost held the ball for 40 minutes versus LSU's 21-28. And despite all of the chicanery in the game wasn't as close as you believe it would to be. I mean, LSU was striking and trying to make a run of it, but they could not stop Houston. They couldn't get enough stops to get this team turned over. So, like I said, Connors, they mentioned Weigman early, but Dean Connors was the top guy with them doing anything. Michael Van Buren, 6 of 26 for 267, 3 touchdowns. Harlem Berry, 3 carries for 45 yards. Van Buren had 11 scrambles for 24 yards, and that was pretty much the bulk of it, even though Xavier Thomas did get a touchdown on 2 rushes for 4 yards. Not much shaking there. Trey Daz Green had 4 catches for 80 yards. He averaged 20 yards a catch, and he had 2 touchdowns in the game, and he was doing some stuff. Kyle Parker had 7 catches for 68 yards and a score as well. Chris Hilton, 3 for 67, no score. So they were doing what they could do in terms of the offense. We know Harlem Berry fumbled that ball, but defensively speaking, boy, this LSU defense really let us down insofar as not stopping the team from running the ball, allowing them to get what they wanted to get, where they wanted to get. And you can see right here, the whole game, not a sack in the game by this. As Devon Keys led 14 tackles. Tamarcus Cooley had 11-9 for Singleton, but not a sack in the game. Not a turnover in the game for LSU. Would have been good for them to get some stops there. Barion Brown, he was massive in this game. Had that 99-yard return for a touchdown on special team. And usually when you get those, you kind of break the game open. So you had a special team score. You had the offense doing what he's doing, but it still wasn't enough. The defense needed to step in here and play and make more stops. They simply didn't do it. Houston is basically a home game, and they just rolled over LSU's defense, man. And like I said, there's other things to kind of pick on in this game in terms of the offense and what we need to do there. But in the end, does it really matter? Does the breakdown really matter? I mean, this at the end of the game, or day rather, this team is over with. Blake Baker does return as the defensive coordinator for the team. We do get Lane Kiffin. He makes he's the new coach, and now he understands what he needs to do. He understood when he stepped in the door what they got to do as a team to turn all this around so that we can get to because like I said, next year, is there such a thing as a honeymoon period for Lane Kiffin? I would have to say no. You don't get a honeymoon period. He has to hit the damn ground running, and he has to hit it fast. So it's going to be interesting going forward. And there's a bunch of players that we've learned that are obviously that are planning on to hitting the transfer portal. We heard about Mubanga. He plans to explore his options. He's another guy. A lot of these offensive linemen that LSU had are planning on hitting the portal. So there are quite a few other guys that they're gonna have to do. So yeah, quite a few of our offensive linemen, are hitting the portal. And guess what? I'm not mad about it at all. I'm not mad about it at all. A lot of these guys couldn't play. A lot of these guys was half-assed. It was the reason why we couldn't run the ball. We couldn't protect the quarterback. And I'm good with that. I mean, some of these guys weren't good. Can we say that? Can we say that? A lot of these guys were good. It's just a report. I just got that Austin Alsbury is into the transfer portal. He's a guy that's looking to do his thing. He's a 4-star recruit out of, signed with the team. He took a red shirt year, played in 12 games and was a special teams player. He hitting it. That's fine. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with all of these guys that are especially these offensive linemen. It's a bunch of our linemen and people hitting the transfer portal. Man, I'm good with that. I'm so good with that. I'm so good with because we do know that LSU #1 in terms of it's got to be linemen and his portal coming up. That it's got to be offensive linemen. We talk about Cone Eccles. He announced his plan to hit the portal. He plans on doing it. We just talked about Mubanga. He's talking about hitting the portal. So I mean, go ahead. The portal is going to be the offensive lineman or the lineman period is going to be a big get for him, and that's going to be probably the number one thing that Lane Kiffin is going to do, hitting that portal now, and he will not have a problem with recruiting offensive linemen to LSU because we know any offense to be worth anything, you're going to have an offensive lineman that's worth the damn. A line period that's worth the damn to be able to stand up and protect the quarterback, run the ball, and also provide a resource where we could be able to pass rush and stop the run. If you don't have a offensive line or a defensive line that's worth anything, I don't care how many great skilled players you have back there. You're not going to accomplish anything. You're not going to accomplish anything. So if Cone Eccles and Mubanga and some of these other guys want to hit the portal, man, I'm all cool with that, man, because what I've seen for some of these guys, they can go. And a lot of these guys are hitting that portal because they know what time it is. When the transfer, because when Lane Kiffin hits that when he starts recruiting these guys, and a lot of these guys ain't going to be starters. That's why they're hitting it. They know what time it is. These guys know what time it is, family. They know what time it is when Lane Kiffin touches down and he start hitting that portal. They know what time it is. They know, hey man, listen, guess what? I don't know, but I don't think you might not get an opportunity here. You know what I'm saying? You might want to hit that portal and see if you can find somewhere else. And I'm fine with that. Offensive line to me coming into the season was a big question mark. And they never got right. The entire season, scant success. They couldn't run the ball effectively. Quarterback running for his life, getting punched on, hit on, and Nussmeier. At the end of the day, you cannot have any success at all if you don't have a line to protect your quarterback, to open up running lanes for your running back, to take pressure off the quarterback, to be able to block and keep him upright, to make passes and protect him. And defensively speaking, LSU has to, recruit heavily interiorly to stop the run, and also to have pass rushers on the outside that get pressure on people. Blake Baker has control of that. Lane Kiffin has control of the offense. He will bring in the quarterbacks. He will bring in offensive linemen. He will bring in the skilled players, and they will set this stuff and get it right. And we should see a different version of what we're looking at LSU football going into the future. So that's what I got on this one, fam. I don't want to bore you about what we need to do, this, that, and the third. This game is simply what it is. It was just a game where I thought LSU, even though they tried to make a run, I really thought LSU had enough firepower to win this game. The offense did some positive stuff. The special teams had a return for a touchdown. The defense, no turnovers, no sacks, couldn't stop the running attack, not enough stops, period, to help out. And at the end of the day, LSU just missed it, 38-35. So with that being said, man, we're going to keep this stuff going into the offseason. We're officially no more football for LSU. Bowl game loss is done with, but now we can focus on Lane Kiffin and what he's going to do, building the offense into the transfer portal. We know the portal opens up January the 2nd. There's also some rumors report about them being interested in DJ Lagway. There's several quarterbacks that have hit the portal that are actually very good quarterbacks that they could take a look at. So we know there's this Chambliss thing trying to seek that extra year of eligibility. We'll see how many players Kiffin pulls from his old stumping grounds over, because that's going to happen. They're going to have some more guys coming over coming from there to here. We'll see how that works going forward. So anyway, with that being said, that's what I got for y'all on this episode of Tough Tiger Talk. Do me a service by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button. By all means, feel free to share Tough Tiger Talk on your social media feed. I am Big Q, and guess what? I'm gonna see you on next week. We'll have more updates on LSU, the Fighting Tigers. Much love, peace, and go Tigers.
Subscribe to the Tough Tiger Talk channel and stay up to date for all things LSU football.